Beautiful trade straight off the pre-market game plan. That was textbook. Welcome back to another trade recap. Today is February the 17th. Absolutely fantastic day in the markets. Hopefully you guys were able to capitalize on that downside move right off the bat. We talked about it in the pre-market game plan coming into today. AMD, Tesla, Nvidia, three of my main top watches. Qs, well, let's just hop right into the charts. Let's go on to exactly what we're looking for coming into today. And I'm making $18,000, 730 bucks here on this Tesla short towards the downside. Before we get into it, let's just go straight into exactly what my game plan was coming into market open. Hopefully you guys were able to capitalize on that as I mentioned. So this is the game plan coming into today. Coming into market open, the key levels that we have marked out is the previous day lows, Qs 596, SPY 677. That is going to be the key level for continuation. Key level coming to market open. I like to see a pop and fade into the markets underneath Thursday's lows of last week. I have a more bearish stance coming to market open just based off the higher time frames. Main watches, Tesla, Nvidia, and AMD. Keep an eye out on all these ones underneath previous day lows. The reclaim is even in play if buyers want to step in right off the bat. So that was the game plan coming to market open. And as you can see, what played out here was Tesla. Really solid retest towards the downside, right off our previous day lows. You can see previous day low, break, retest, continuation lower. Absolutely textbook. If you're looking at all the other tickers here as well, Qs, the key level that we have marked out was of course our Thursday's lows, popped above. On the lower time frames, closed above, but you can see higher time frames broke back underneath, maintained underneath, nice pop and fade towards the downside. Qs, another pop, fade towards the downside. Nvidia, another one. Previous day low retest, pop and fade. AMD, another one, nice pop and fade right off our previous day lows. So let's go into exactly what the thought process was coming to market open. The live session is, of course, not ready here since I'm making this one quite early. But as you can see, the overall game plan here for Tesla coming to market open, of course, you can see we're having a little bit of a mean reversion here now. But the trade right off the bat was that push lower. So the game plan coming to market open was fairly simple. We're looking for your previous day low, retest towards the downside. Right, break underneath, we can see this continuation lower. So if you play the tape, you can see price breaks underneath our previous day lows. And now all we're looking for is a retest off our previous day lows for continuation. So as you play out the tape, price comes back up. No retest here whatsoever. The reason being is because of the QQQ. I should have waited a little bit longer, but I just kind of want to get this last session out of the way. Get this trade recap out of the way. But during this exact moment, you can see the QQQ was showing some strength. So there's no shorting opportunity. There's no reason to be that aggressive on Tesla on that first pop up and towards your previous day lows. Tesla did have relative weakness. It was a nice technical setup, but the QQQ was above our 600 key cycle level, which happened to be that Thursday's lows. So within the first 5 minutes, Qs is showing a little bit more strength. The higher time frame is still bearish, but now intraday, we're leaning a little bit more towards upside. So all we're doing is waiting for the flip back underneath our 600. So the intraday can be bearish, and then the higher time frame is also bearish. So as you can see here, as price is just kind of consolidating here, we start seeing some weak price action. So we start pushing higher, no buyers step in. We start breaking underneath the 600 key psych. Now we're looking for this flip, for this reversal trade back towards the downside. At this exact time, Nvidia, this is a setup that we're looking for, the previous day low retest back underneath for continuation lower. AMD was actually my favorite one that I missed. This one, you had to be a little bit more aggressive right off the bat. But AMD off our 204 previous day highs. As for Tesla, as soon as we close back underneath our previous day lows, now is looking for your pre-market lows plus your previous day low retest. So as we play out the tape, you can see price comes back up. Beautiful rejection here. That's exactly where I got in. I got in on this candle formation on this 947 candle. Stop, break above, and now I'm looking for continuation towards the downside. As for my targets here, you can go back onto the higher time frames. At a couple targets, let's just go into the daily chart. Our first main objective here was our 407. And as you can see for Tesla, immediate break underneath with the Qs dropping, of course. And now we're just looking for continuation lower. And as you can see, as you can see, Tesla, we end up just having this nice push all the way back down in towards one of our main objectives on the daily chart, which was our 478, which was absolutely fantastic. There's plenty of opportunities today. You could have been looking for NVIDIA flip underneath right off the bat, AMD retest right off the bat, Tesla retest right off the bat, or even the SPY and Qs pop and fade. Of course, the market's reversing here now, but the trade right off the bat was the best trade of the day, in my opinion, on Tesla, NVIDIA, AMD. We'll kind of talk about this a little bit more on what to expect coming into tomorrow. But yeah, really short trade recap today. I'll potentially post the live session later on. And yeah, that's about it for me. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone. Peace. Yeah, we're finding a little bit of aggressive buyers here right off the bat. Let's keep an eye on your 600. As I mentioned, if Qs gets above 600, then I'm going to be a little bit more neutral. As long as you can maintain underneath 600, then I'm going to still have that bearish stance. So far, the only ticker that's still staying heavy here is Tesla. AMD still underneath our previous day lows here as well. We can keep an eye on an AMD potential previous day low retest, which is at 204. Even NVIDIA here, we can potentially keep an eye out on your previous day low retest as well. We have some pretty big upper wick here off this 182. You can see some weaker price action. We can keep an eye out on the 180 puts on NVIDIA. All right, Q's coming back up into that 600 key psych level. Let's see the reaction here on the QQQ. Yeah, with Q so far showing a little bit of strength, we're trying to close above this 600 key psych. I'm not as interested in shorts. The only thing I'm really interested still is Tesla underneath our previous day lows. But as for everything else, I'm going to be a little bit more cautious on, since now Q is showing a little bit more strength. This is the key level we mentioned, 600. Let's keep an eye out on Apple. Apple key level here is our pre-market high plus that 1 minute range. So far, we are getting some nice buyers here off that 258. So this current moment, I'm not interested in really shorts just because Qs and SPYs showing strength right off the bat. We have a gap fill towards the upside that we're currently filling on both the SPY and the Qs. All right, the Qs just filled our gap there as well. We had a small gap that we created here over the weekend. So the key level here is at 601. As I mentioned, I'm more neutral now. So far within the first 5 minutes, we had quite a few bullish. We basically have some bullish price action within the first 5 minutes. So filled its gap. Now let's keep an eye out on this 600 key level. Yeah, a lot of names just kind of filled its gap here. So Q's just filled its gap towards the upside. We have like Nvidia filled its small gap that we created. I'm fairly neutral here on the markets. I'm actually, yeah, very neutral. Bullish intraday, higher time frame, bearish. We do have a couple gap fills. Tesla potentially so far is reclaiming your previous day lows. This is actually in play for a potential move back towards the upside here. All right, Q's pulling back here. Let's keep an eye on Q's. Key level here is going to be our 600 key psych. Tesla now, after this reclaim back above our previous day lows, showing a bit of strength here. As I mentioned, this one does have a gap fill back towards the upside. And then AMD is right at our 203. So if the market wants to show weakness, I'm still somewhat interested in AMD because since it's right at our previous day lows. And then for some upside here, there's a couple names that are showing some relative strength, but I need to see the Qs maintain above this 600 key psych if I want to see some buyers step in if we're looking for upside. All right, this is key right here for the Q600. If the market does want to flip here, let's actually keep an eye out on Tesla and AMD as well. Key level, as I mentioned, is the 600 key psych. Yeah, Tesla, keep an eye on the Qs here. Tesla, keep an eye on the 405 puts on Tesla. The 405 puts. So far, Qs, really no buyers stepping in. We'd like to see the reaction here off our 600. As for Tesla, this is the key level here now. It broke back underneath our previous day lows. AMD, keep an eye on AMD here as well. You can be looking at the 200 puts on AMD. Q so far breaking underneath here. Qs is now breaking underneath this 600 key psych, showing a little bit more weakness than Tesla. But let's keep an eye on Tesla. Your risk is your previous day highs here. I'm looking at the 405s. All right, this is our exact level here. So Tesla, this is our previous day lows, needs to reject off this 410.50. Let's keep an eye on the 405s, and then Qs needs to reject here off our 600. NVIDIA is actually flipping here as well. Keep an eye out on NVIDIA. The semis are actually showing a little bit more weakness here. Yeah, semi showing a little bit more weakness here. I personally wasn't able to get in fast enough on Nvidia, but this one looks good for a move lower. Now I'm just gonna remain my focus back in here on Tesla. Yeah, I'm gonna try some of the Tesla 405s here. This one with the Qs kind of rejecting off the 600. Tesla, nice rejection so far here off our previous day lows. What I'll be looking for here is now low of day below. Took some of the 405, 405 puts. Overall market, I like to see start flipping here. So far, you can see showing some weakness now. I like to see the Qs drop down in towards our previous day lows. And then you can see the semis. Semis are showing a little bit more weakness here. All right, so what I like to see is the market stay heavy as long as you can maintain underneath the 600. Previous day lows is in play. AMD, you like to see weakness underneath your 200. 5-minute opening range low. Similar thing here with Nvidia. Tesla, I like to see this break now. Now underneath your low of day and below here. I want to see a flush here with the Qs. Oh, there's that flush. Yep. Beautiful. Yep. That's Q's previous day lows right there. Perfect. Scale summit now. We'll look for some more weakness here on the Qs. If we can break underneath previous day lows, more room towards the downside here. Nice drop on AMD, Tesla, Nvidia. Let's see if we can get that flush here on the Qs. Next level is SPY previous day lows. Let's see if we can get some. Yep. Yep. Seems like the market's staying heavy, which is good. Let's see if we can get that flush on the Qs now. We need a candle closure underneath. Yep, there's that flush. Nice. Yeah, we're in a good spot here. If the market does want to continue lower, right, underneath previous day lows, it's going to have this flush here. Semis leading the way. Tesla, nice drop here as well. Yeah, there's that Q slush again, rejecting so far, immediate reject off our previous day lows. Next level here, pre-market low. We should get a bigger move on the markets towards the downside here with Qs rejecting off previous day lows. Tesla next level that I have is 405 and this 402 here on the higher time frames. Tesla, we can see 402 fairly quickly here with the market flushing. Yep, look at that flush there. Beautiful. Yep, SPY is about to approach your previous day low, so we could see a little bit of buyers stepping in here. But that was like, look at how weak the market is. Once we flip back underneath that 600 that we talked about, right? Tesla, weakness, NVIDIA, AMD, all those ones right off that pre-market game plan. Even AMD, look at this one, super solid. Wasn't able to find an entry on some of these semis, but look at Tesla, beautiful. Yeah, there's that previous day lows there on SPY, or very close to it. Yep. Yeah, look at the market flush here. Exactly what we wanted to. Perfect. Perfect rejection on the SPY, perfect rejection on the Qs once we flipped underneath. Now just scale along the ways. Now we're just going to hold some trailers. But for SPY, right at our previous day lows here, so we can expect a little bit of potential buyers to step in. But overall market's just showing weakness here now. Key level on the SPY is basically this 677. And then for the Qs, if we want to maintain ultimate weakness, underneath this 595.07. As for Tesla, I don't really have any levels besides 407.27. I just like to see the market stay heavy. And Tesla, we can kind of use this 9 EMA as a reference since there's no up close candles. All right, so SPYs, you can see right at our previous day low. So this is a very key scale point. As I mentioned, previous day lows here on SPY. So if we can break underneath, we can see continuation lower. If we bounce, you can see a little bit of a mean reversion. But key level here is our 677. we like to stay heavy. As for Tesla, as I mentioned, that 9 EMA as a reference. So far rejecting here off that 406 or that 9 EMA. Let's see if we can make a brand new low down towards that 402. All right, so far SPY and Qs kind of rejecting off our previous day lows. Yeah, so far we're getting that immediate rejection here on the Qs and SPY. Let's see if we can get a weak candle closure here on both those names. Tesla, as I mentioned, no levels down and towards next level, kind of this 402 here. Yeah, look at that weakness so far on the markets. No buyer step, a little bit of buyers, but immediately just rejected here on both SPY and Qs. So now for Tesla, it's approaching our 402. Nvidia kind of right at this 180. Now you can see as long as the market just holds underneath key levels, we're just going to ride this momentum towards the downside. But yeah, there's that rejection there on the SPY and Qs that we wanted. Now we can just mark out up close candles. Tesla, we have a couple up close candles here as well now that we can mark out. Yeah, Q's and SPY, our key level here, previous day lows on SPY, and then Tesla order block. Up close candle now, support price. We like to see it head lower. And then SPY and Q is basically right at our level right now. Yeah. So far we are staying heavy. Yep. Yeah, overall market, Qs and SPY actually flip back above here. Tesla's staying heavy underneath this order block, so we just like to see it maintain underneath this 404. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, you guys can drop in the chat. Now for the Qs, as long as you can maintain actually underneath our previous day lows on the Qs, I'm going to maintain a bearish stance. As for SPY, a little bit of buyer stepping in, which was expected here. If you do want to stay heavy, now I have this up close candle. That's really the only last line of defense. And then for the Qs, my last line is going to be our previous day lows. What's your PT for Tesla? 402, 400 towards the downside. We even have more room lower. There's really no support on Tesla, so I just expect this to continue lower. If you look on the daily time frame, we're flipping. Let's see right here, Q's coming up, Tesla's coming down to that 402. Q's coming up here as well. Let's see if we can get this rejection here on SPY off this order block. Tesla, let's see if we can get this next flush towards the downside. NVIDIA at a key level. AMD is actually showing a lot of weakness. Another scale point here as well. 402, there's that rejection on SPY and Qs. There's another scale point there on Tesla, that 402. NVIDIA so far rejecting. All these ones just they still look heavy, right? No buyer stepping in on Tesla whatsoever. No buyer stepping in on NVIDIA. AMD, no buyer stepping in on this one. AMD was, man, I missed this one. But AMD and NVIDIA both were, all these ones were on watch. If you guys watch the pre-market game plan, I mentioned Tesla, NVIDIA, AMD, pop and fade. AMD, that reclaim back underneath. I couldn't find like a really low risk entry on this one, but man, look at that 204. That previous day low retest would have been fire. Key levels on AMD, 186, actually 196, just hit one of our main objectives. Yeah, AMD, no support. No support down until next level, 194, 190s. Tesla, similar kind of thing here. Next level, really let me get the exact levels. 401, 397, 78. Just remove this real quick. Tesla next level. So right now it's at our 402. We're just going to mark out up close candles. Next level 478 and down to that 397. But yeah, that is, let me answer some questions here now. We're just gonna hold some trailers. Tesla contracts now move. Tesla contracts, maybe if you're playing Friday's expirations, 1 day expirations, cons went from like through high threes to like 80% move, super solid. Maybe if we're playing Friday's contracts, moved a little bit less, but we can play 1 day expiration. So Wednesday's expiration, more volume, and they move a lot nicer compared to Fridays. Would you consider your Tesla low risk entry? Yeah, like that overall thought process was very low risk because it's just off your previous day lows along with your pre-market lows. So obviously it depends where you got in, but the overall thought process was fairly spot on, right? We're just looking for the break underneath, retest continuation. So if you get in, right, maybe if you get in at low of day, it's probably not that low risk. But if you get in on this like candle formation anywhere around here, then you can get somewhat of a low risk entry, right? Based off of, right, risk being our 410, looking for continuation towards the downside. Nice win. Can you please see S&DK? Markets consolidate. Yeah, a little bit, but if you just look in the higher time frames, right, 1 minute not really showing too much. Now after this nice drop, you're just gonna be on the 5 minute time frame. Coming into 10 o'clock here as well. Tesla shorts are my favorite trades. Continuation contracts. Yeah, it's you'll see the downside moves nice, right? Downside very aggressive, but we always talk about this. Similar thing with our downside trade that we had on Friday on Nvidia towards the downside. We always talk about this. Downside, you got to be a little bit more aggressive because it moves a lot quicker. If it touches a key level, rejects, that's kind of your sign to get in. Upside, you can be a little bit more patient, wait for the candles to close, but downside, right? You want to be aggressive just because that's how it moves, right? Stair step up, elevator down. So far, Tesla's still holding that down close, up close candle. Q still staying heavy here as well. Why not wait for Tesla to touch prior day low for entry? It did touch. Well, we have the general level. That's why I always mark out areas and price instead of levels. We had your previous day lows plus your pre-market lows. If you just had your previous day lows marked out, you might not see the entry. But we had our pre-market lows. Draw this level over to your previous day lows. All right, give it a little bit of wiggle room. Nice retest towards the downside. If you just had your previous day lows, you might have missed this trade because you might have had your pre-market lows or you could have had your previous day lows marked out. But why not just draw it out as a whole area? As you can see, nice perfect rejection. All right, Q still staying heavy here. Nvidia, let's take a look at SPY. SPY now staying heavy underneath our 678. So let's wait for that next flush towards the downside, just because SPY and Q is still staying heavy here now as well.